How much do you know about the Internet of Things, data collection, AI in mining?
I don't know anything.
Well, I know more since I've been studying it the last couple of days. So welcome to episode 19 of the Crownsman podcast. We have a guest today, Thor Kellestad. He's the CEO of DataCloud.
Yes, that's right.
A lot of interesting. We're staying in that technology vein in the mining side. We've got some new shows coming up. We're going to get into the heavy equipment side, but the technology part is so key to mining, to even getting minings off the ground, keeping them operational. Right now, I'm your host, Jared Downey, and my co-host is Gowdy Molina.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. You ready for our show today?
Yes, I am.
You're up bright and early, trying to get everything set up. Sorry, that was my fault. Who do we got? We got it sponsoring today. When we started this show, we were basically running it off our own company, and but now we have sponsors coming in to support us, and which we really appreciate. So who do we have? We've got a few today.
We got a few,
Yeah.
yes. So first off, Resource World magazine. They report on the business of mining, oil and gas, green technologies, and the events that affect these sectors. You can catch their February-March issue and see all the latest news at resourceworld.com. We're also offering a structural geology and mining course for you. This is put on by Sean Daly, who has a Bachelor of Science in Geology, a Master's of Engineer in Mining and Engineering. The purpose of this course is to learn practical aspects of the relationship between structural geology and mining, with emphasis on open pit. The course starts May 6th. You can register by emailing peter.daly@hotmail.ca or follow the link in the description below.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love talking to Sean. We've talked a few times.
We
connected off LinkedIn, and he's got a course, and he's a very cool guy. He's got 40 years of experience. So if you're into the geology side, you probably want to check out that. It's actually, and it's not very expensive either. I checked it out. It's pretty affordable.
Yeah,
so.
definitely.
Okay, let's get into it. Welcome, Thor. Good to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good to be up here.
Yeah, you took a bit of a tour this morning to get here. Where are you coming from again?
Bainbridge Island, offices in Seattle. We're based down in Pioneer Square in Seattle, and Palo Alto, two main offices. Opening an office in Vancouver, and we recently opened one up in Perth. Support our operations down in Australia also.
Oh, I see.
But Seattle and Palo Alto are the hubs of the company.
Yeah, where did we'll get into more about the company, but did you your offices started in Seattle and then you went to Australia next?
Palo Alto next.
Palo Alto, yeah.
Yeah. We there's a lot of coding talent down there to IoT and AI, and one of the underlying themes of the company we'll get to more. Ton of talent down in the area there that pulled us down there.
Yeah. So let's actually. I got some stuff happening on here. That's what happens when you have a live show. Sorry. Can you give us just some context of what DataCloud is? I was saying to you off the air, I came into prepping for the interview with thinking I knew what it was, so it took me about an hour to unlearn what I already thought you did. So could you just give us a sort of a really simple overview, and then we'll dig into it a little bit more?
Yeah, so kind of DataCloud 101 is mainly based in Silicon Valley, VC-funded startup, about 2.5 years old, high growth rate. The premise of the company is to provide real-time ore body knowledge for our customers, to be able to tell them at very high resolution where their ore waste boundaries are, what the rock mechanical properties of the bench are. We develop sensors and cloud computing algorithms to essentially be able to deliver that information in real time to clients. General premise being, if we can tell them at very high resolution what their ore body looks like, they can make much better decisions downstream with that knowledge to be able to optimize their operations, improve productivity, production, et cetera. But we feel that the missing link in the industry is that real-time, high-resolution understanding of what the ore body, the rock mass looks like.
Right. So this is actually and that's the mistake I made. I was thinking it was a geological tool that you were using. I was actually thinking diamond core drills and all that. But this is actually an attachment to the blasting drills, right, in an operational mine. It's primarily, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right now, open pit, drill and blast is our focus. We're looking on the roadmap down the line. We would like to get into exploration, drilling, also underground. Kind of next phase of the company. We'll probably later this year. We'll do another raise later this year, and then expand into different geographies and then different mining markets. Those being among the ones that we're targeting.
Right. I want to kind of get into, I want to sort of break it down to the very, no pun intended, the core of what we're doing. So this is an Internet of Things. IoT technology is the base of it, right?
Yep.
So there's a sensor. This is called the Rhino sensor, and is that actually attached to the drill itself?
Correct. What it is as we entered the mining industry, we realized that we have to be very unobtrusive. We can't ask for clients to be performing extra steps. We can't be putting other people on location. We've got to make it as easy as possible. So what the solution looks like that we've developed is it's an IoT sensor package that goes on the actual drill steel. It mounts on the shock slab. Everything takes about 10 minutes to install. So we mount this IoT sensor on the drill. It measures vibration properties in the steel when you're drilling through the rocks, and from that we can tell a lot about the properties of those rocks that the bit's cutting through. But it's the IoT sensor, and that communicates wirelessly with an edge device that is in the driller's cab. On that edge device, math happens on some of the data, it gets compressed, and then it streams to the cloud. And then in the cloud is where we kind of do the computational heavy lifting, if you will, with machine learning, geostatistical techniques to essentially take that information from the blast holes on the pattern and then infill between it on the bench to be able to tell the client in real time, here's what the ore body looks like. They can access that in our software, which we call Mine Portal, which is the second part of our platform in addition to Rhino, which is the hardware, or we can send it directly into their block model. But that's the ultimate deliverable, is that we provide that real-time ore body knowledge for them at very high resolution, and it's the sensors and the computing power that we provide in service of delivering that.
So the person that's actually doing the drilling, is there a real-time advantage for them, or is this more going back to the data collected at the I don't even know what the head office, I guess.
Yeah, it mainly goes to the office, to operations on location that will then plan the blasting and then how to sort the muck pile and where the ore waste boundaries are. So for most cases, I'll get to the asterisk I'm getting at with most, but for most cases, it's not information really that the driller consumes, and the driller doesn't even know that the sensors are there. But the one real exception to that is with metallurgical coal is one of the areas that we target, and one of the big services that we provide for that is geostopping, the ability to stop the bit at the top of coal seams, because that really helps keep them from damaging the coal and coal loss and it increases cycle time. So in that case, that's the one example where some of the information is directly consumed by the driller. Of it's basically a red light that says stop when they get there. Otherwise, it goes into the drill and blast engineer, the geologists on location, that then they use that information in their workflows typically.
So when it goes back to the office, you're getting are you actually creating an image for them to look at?
Yes.
Yeah. Is there any examples of that on the website? That shows sort of the picture. I saw videos in that.
Yeah, we've got a video that is probably the best way to look at it quickly on the website, and then we can provide a bunch more examples of this. But on the website, we do have an animation of what it looks like in kind of DataCloud solution in 30 seconds for people to digest.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We'll put all the links and everything in it. So what is the, in a way you've already answered it, but just for the sake of clarification, is this for them to know what to blast, how much to blast, the amount of drill holes that will likely be needed based off of what the sensor is telling them?
Yes, that's it's basically our big value pitch is essentially that will help clients get their throughput up at the mill to be able to get more material going through it. We do that by improving the fragmentation, and that's directly as a blasting application, where we are not blast engineers, but we provide those rock mechanical properties that the client can then make better loading and blasting decisions to improve fragmentation.
Right. So the engineers are gathering this data. That's actually created. You actually create imaging with the data.
Correct.
then they're looking at it and going, okay, so this needs to, because I guess the end goal is if you want to, the smaller stuff, you want to make the stuff that you're going to process smaller. The stuff that you're going to move away can be larger to be easily removed. Is that essentially?
Ideally, it depends, a bit on how the mills are designed. But we essentially, we'll say, client, how do you want your fragments to be at the mill? And then we can provide the information that they need to design their blast to improve. Some people will have problems with oversize, particles too large,
right.
Some with fines. So depending on what their pain point is, we can provide the information that they need for better blasting decisions to get the fragmentation profile more uniform for their mill.
Yeah, DataCloud is a fairly new company, but I mean, this is active technology. This has been tested. It's been used. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. We're on several different mines right now deploying this.
Yeah. How specific can you get without pushing out confidentiality?
Yeah, sure. No worries. We've been working in Quebec, in British Columbia, in the Pilbara. Our two areas of geographic focus are Canada and Australia, and then we're getting ready to start some projects right now in Queensland also. So pretty good spread throughout Canada and Australia.
Yeah. Again, I realize with these types of projects, it's always, especially mining, I find.
Yeah.
As soon as we want to dig in, we had an engineer on, and he came he prepared because he had to dance around the names of everything and all that sort of stuff. Is there any specific examples you can give?
Yeah, no, I definitely can. And one of the things why we all have to do this dance that I sense you're probably seeing me starting to do right now is we'll sign NDAs with a lot of people because we measure their ore bodies in really high resolution, and that's like the biggest driver of the value of those mines. And so it's really sacred information to them, as you might suspect.
Right,
they don't want that getting out. So we do have to very much honor confidentiality on that. Some clients, and this is just manna from heaven for us when they'll sign like a marketing release with us to allow us to anonymize, and mask the data, but to be able to use it, to be able to say, here's what we can do, and we have plenty of examples of that, and some clients have just been great about doing that. So that's kind of the explanation around the dance. But where we are doing this sort of work is in iron ore. We've done some jobs down in the Pilbara. The other big part of the solution, I mentioned throughput and better blasting. The other big part of the solution that we provide for iron ore, which we've successfully been doing in the Pilbara, is ore waste boundary identification. The other big driver for their production and productivity and their margins is that you don't want to be processing waste rock. So if you can keep the waste rock out, better recovery, don't discard ore, be able to get the ore into the mill with the right fragment size is what they really need for iron ore. We've done a good bit of that in the Pilbara, and starting to do it also up in areas of Quebec.
Yeah. I always like to give, sometimes honestly I forget to do it on the interview when we're talking about new technology, because when you start having this conversation, it makes so much sense that you'd put a sensor on, it would read the data, the office would get it and go, okay, we need to blast here and here. This is the fragmentation of the rock, so we need to put this much explosive in this one, and we need this X more patterns to do it. It makes a lot of sense.
Right.
What were they doing before? It almost seems like it's a given that you do it.
Yeah, this is no knock on anyone in the industry or the industry, but there's a real right place, right time to our story with this, and a lot of technologies that are coming into the industry. It's not just us, but these cost-effective IoT sensors, and now the power of distributed cloud computing. You can measure and process things fast and pretty inexpensively now, where you couldn't previously. So to your question, predating the development of some of those technologies. Clients did the best they could, but they largely assumed homogeneity to a large degree on the ore bodies, and people know that's not the case, but there was no real better way to characterize it. So you look at some of these grid sizes on these block models, and the block model is the current way that people keep track of what their ore body looks like, and grid sizes on these are like 10 meters by 10 meters by 10 meters. They're these huge blocks, and in that there'll be like one property, and that's there's much more heterogeneity to the formations than are represented in those block models. And it was just didn't really have the measurement abilities to be able to resolve it at higher resolution than that. But along come some of these technologies, and I think it is a whole new world and what's available for subsurface understanding. I think what I've seen, the industry seems to have done a very good job with surface equipment, automation of drills, hauling, the mills. I think where they've been, and again, it's a timing thing where they just haven't really had many advances yet are in the subsurface measurement realm, which is what we're directly targeting.
Yeah, you've mentioned the high resolution. I think we should take a minute. I think anybody who's joined us would probably love to see that. Where would we find that? Would it be on your website or should it be the videos?
Just go to the home page. If you click on, I think we should have a video. Maybe if you scroll down a little bit, there we go.
Oh, there we go.
This is kind of.
Can we make that full size, Gowdy? On the, is there a little button on the bottom? Oh, there it is.
There we go.
All right, great. So DataCloud in a minute. I thought it was 30 seconds, but I see it's a minute.
That's okay.
So that's the sensor. That's the IoT device, what we call the Rhino. Mounts on the drill steel. It measures those vibrations when the drill bit's cutting through the rocks. Communicates wirelessly, as you're seeing now, with an edge device that's in the cab, the driller's cab. That information is then processed on the edge device, initial processing, streams to the cloud. That's where the heavy lift, the machine learning is applied, and the geostatistical algorithms. And then it goes right into the client's block model on their laptop. And
so this is actually what they're getting right here?
This is what they get. This is an example of a pattern that we logged in the Pilbara. Those are the blast holes.
Okay.
This is the density scale, so we measure the density in real time. Ore waste boundaries. I talked a little bit about geostopping at coal seams. And then this is essentially a pattern. Those are 15-meter deep blast holes, kind of 8-meter spacing on those. And what you wind up doing, what you saw with the green and the red on that, is density serves as a great proxy for us for ore waste boundary detection and iron ore formation. So then we can say to the client, there's the visualization of it. And the very useful thing that we also give them that's not captured on that video is we can give a shape file for just basically a DXF export to say, here's the contact, here's that planar contact between your ore waste boundaries. So then that can be loaded into their blasting programs. We're agnostic of how they want to use it, but our view is that we don't want to disrupt anything going on. We want to make it as easy as possible for them to assimilate the information. So they can log into a mine portal and access this information, or we can export it to them wherever and however they'd like to receive it within their existing workflows.
Oh, wow.
I want to get into a little bit about how the industry receives it, some challenges in that a little bit later on. We've got to take a break for about 30 seconds to talk about
Our other sponsor.
our other sponsors.
Great.
Yes, we're also brought by Streamline. They offer a complete package of fleet management solutions with 3 incredible products. Their NaviStream, that's their onboard intelligence and telematics system. NaviLink, their vehicle automation and IoT platform. And Degama, their dynamic transportation management system. And you can visit stti.com for the Streamline Advantage.
Thank you very much, Gowdy.
You're welcome.
You're going to, it's always my favorite part of the interview when you dig into people's personal lives.
Yes. I start Googling people and I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. So that is what I did. And I see actually tell me a little bit about where you started.
Sure. Yeah. So my background's oil and gas.
That's right.
About 20 years oil and gas. A lot of people in the company. DataCloud's about 30 people. About half of us are ex-E&P, exploration and production end of the oil and gas business, the upstream drilling and reservoir logging part of it. The other half are cloud computing, AI types down in Palo Alto. So my background, I'm of the Rockhound part of it, that the real-time subsurface evaluation piece. When we started the company's about 2.5 years old. Originally, we were thinking we would stay in oil and gas, what we knew well on the E&P side of it. We discovered in mining that they just weren't doing real-time geoscience like this. And we took a good look at it and thought with the advent of some of these new technologies that we had talked about previously, we could do it at a cost and at a tempo that the industry would adopt the information. We used to joke in oil and gas that you could be slow and expensive and get away with it, and you can't in mining, clearly, with the tempo of these operations.
Yeah.
So So we knew how to evaluate the rocks. We knew a lot of ways to do that from our oil and gas backgrounds. The question was just, could we develop a sensor that was cost effective enough to be put on drills that the industry would take, and then to be able to process that fast enough to get the information to them in time to matter.
Right.
That was the fundamental challenge. We felt we could do that. Did a full pivot into mining. We don't do anything in E&P anymore. We've been at mining, full time now for these 2 years. And the general premise of what we're doing with this is an integrated platform. It's the sensors and it's the software that provides the answers that clients want about their ore body. So everything's built to work together. We feel how we're doing it, just a technical distinction of what we're measuring on the drill steel is the way of the future that the industry will start doing. We've all taken to adopting Wayne Gretzky's great quote about skating to where the puck is going to be, and we just think this is inevitable that it is done like this with these sort of tools. So we've made a big bet, and our investors have too, on the company to be able to do this, and we're having great technical success getting through the sales cycles and starting to really ramp up here. So a little bit of the history on myself background, and then the rest of the group, largely petroleum engineers and geoscientists, and then cloud computing AI types from down in Silicon Valley.
Wow, yeah. Was it kind of difficult, or did you find challenges from kind of moving off of oil and gas and then focusing on the mining industry?
Yeah, just tons and tons of challenges. Really resilient group though, and we knew it wasn't going to be easy. But sensor development, software development, it was a bit of a don't say it was faith, but we had confidence that we could figure it out, that the tools were there, and we would stub our toe a bunch along the way, and we're trying to do something new. That's just kind of how it goes. So we were all ready for that. But yes, there's been a lot of challenges. The technical challenges we knew would be we'd get over them, and we have, and that's been it's nice to have arrived. What we didn't anticipate was just how slow the sales cycles would be in the industry. But we feel that's starting to accelerate on the backs of success. I agree completely with a lot of the clients that we have approached, that when we first told them what we were up to about maybe 18 months ago, what the processes look like for us is basically they say prove it. We show us fair enough criticism there. Okay.
Yeah.
So we would go out and we would then do a few just free projects to just show the trade was, if we can use your data for marketing, we'll go do this for free. Those went great, and then we've come back to just start doing paid projects on limited numbers of drills. And then the third phase of it that we're moving into right now with a few clients is ramping up on all drills. So it's kind of been, it looks about 2-year sales cycle, kind of 3 steps. Prove it's for real, introductory paid period, and then full-time deployment across drills. So kind of what it's looked like for us.
Wow. And now I don't even know how to put together this question. Are there major differences between when you were doing, focused on oil and gas and that with now focusing on mining? Is there anything that's similar that you find that are kind of similar, or it's just total opposites?
It's technically similar to the measurement physics of what we're doing. Building the sensor and the software platform we knew that would be a challenge, but we're through that. But the biggest distinction that we've really noticed on it is in oil and gas. I think the bits on the bottom drilling a well, 15-20% of the time. It's just you're there's a lot of downtime in oil and gas. Where mining, there's not. They're drilling, you're going. There's no time for being able to sit around and figure something out. You just got to keep up with this much quicker tempo. We did some work in the Pilbara, and it was our first time that we were on one of these autonomous drills, and these things were drilling like 70, 80 blast holes a day. I mean, it was just the tempo was amazing. And I know a lot of that's it's soft rock out there, softer rock, so it's you get a much higher penetration rate, where some places it's 4 or 5 blast holes a day where we'd been previously. But just that tempo was the most shocking change to us between the two industries.
Wow. What is there anything that you've learned?
Oh yeah, tons. Yeah. No, it's I guess the biggest takeaway on the whole thing is really for it's tough getting new technology into this industry, and I think a lot of that is the sales cycles. And I think the industry's been doing stuff largely the same way for a long time, especially on the subsurface part of it. So you just got to come. Our investors are great, and they you see the technical success and the commercial success is getting going, and realizing just okay, we've got to get through these cycles, and there's really. I don't think you can accelerate it too much. I think it's counterproductive to push too much against that, but it would be awesome if the industry were for mining company, X, whichever one it is, or whoever, to put in place incentives for their staff to be able to vet and try out new technology quicker. A lot of them will flame out, but I think you just got to increase those cycle times of trying new things. I think it'd be the best incentive that mining companies could do to be able to get new technology in there, because it's brutal surviving them. I mean, we've got a great team and great investors. We kind of knew what we were getting into, but we're kind of a rare bird in that regard. But if people could get a crack at trying new things quicker, I think it would really, really accelerate the pace of adoption in the industry.
I think there was, when you were saying about that in the sales cycle, what comes to mind is that when you talk to geologists, that the mines start off so slow right from the beginning. There's this process of testing. I mean, a geologist goes in there, and then eventually a drill goes in there, and I mean, some of them are taking 20 years to get off so the industry starts off so slow just to get something happening in it. And I mean, I think every guest that we've had in there that's talking about mining, they talk about how slow things are integrated in comparison to other industries. And it's like almost a style that has just kind of woven itself into mining. It's sort of unique to that industry.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've run into that. It's ironic because when we're in drill and blast and where it's like it's chop chop go go go, but everything else just seems like so slow about it. But one of the things that was surprising to us is that to do some of this introductory work for clients, we had to go through. We thought let's just have a one-page agreement. If you like it, then great. We can deal with all vendors, long-term terms and conditions, vendor forms, all this stuff afterwards. But everybody for just doing even introductory projects wanted us to go through this big vendor onboarding process, and it's nice because if the project goes well, then it makes it very easy to scale. So it's not there is good news, bad news with it, but it makes it tough to get that first project away to go through the full onboarding process right away. Yeah,
you were talking about some of your investors, and I've seen you've got partnerships with I think Orica, right?
Yeah.
Microsoft using their software. Can you talk a little bit about that? I think and to give some context to it, and especially in anything startup, but even these major companies sometimes that we've got interviewed, it's surprising to me sometimes how much of when something gets accomplished, there's a partnership element, even for major companies.
Oh, yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about, well, what are those partnerships, but also sort of the process of developing those?
Yeah, no, that's great. So you mentioned two of our big three that I'll talk to. I'll start with the one of the three that you haven't mentioned. When we started the company, we were originally backed by a few very wealthy investors in Texas, wealthy family offices, angel investors that we knew from our previous lives in oil and gas, and they largely just made a bet on the team from our track record with them on stuff. So they were the first one that they've been super supportive. And then the second real one in was Microsoft. When we started, when we were doing oil and gas, or thought that would be our future, we made a conscious decision to build on Microsoft for a lot of reasons. They've just been phenomenal to work with. Great access to technology, sales support. They've been terrific. And then the third one was Orica, and Orica led our Series B round. They're a big investor in DataCloud, and they've just been phenomenal to work with also. And they were the ones who really they provide a lot of industry knowledge for us on the blasting side, which we just do not have. So can't say enough about all three of them. The wealthy individual investors, Microsoft with the technology and the sales reach, Orica with the blasting know-how. Without those three, we wouldn't be sitting here today.
Right,
so it very much is, a partnership, and it absolutely takes a village. And they've just been key enablers, all three of them, in their various ways for us.
Microsoft, knowing that your platform is integrated using their software, correct me if I'm not saying that right, but if they that must be a big advantage to the selling point, knowing that, okay, this can be integrated with whatever technology the mines are using as well, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It's great because we often get asked, well, how DataCloud are you guys going to take care of our data? And it's fun to say, well, we're not. Microsoft is going to. I mean, we
Right.
will of course help, but it definitely gives people a really good comfort factor because that is such sensitive information on the ore
Yeah.
body, and when they know that it's has this security that they provide behind it, is a really really big part of it. It's one thing that they've really provided. And the other great thing about Microsoft is, this will come as no surprise to yourselves or anyone viewing it, but there's the giant cloud war afoot between them,
Yeah.
AWS, Google Cloud, et cetera. So, they look at companies like us that if a large mining company starts using our solution and it's on Azure, it helps them upsell other Microsoft
Right.
services
Yeah.
unrelated to us. So they're great about helping open sales doors for us also.
Right. Orica, I found it as an interesting one, and we were talking. Can you? I know it's one of those things. You sometimes just miss companies. I actually didn't know much about Orica
Okay.
before this morning. So can you give it a context of what they are?
Yeah, so Orica has, I want to say it's like 40% market share worldwide for explosives. I believe they are the world's largest provider of explosives.
Okay.
So they, giant market share, and one of the things that was, this self-serving to say, but I think was attractive about us is our know-how on measuring this rock information, because
Right.
with that, a company like Orica can then make better blasting decisions.
Right.
And so it's kind of what really started the partnership there. There were some relationships from our legacy lives in E&P that
Oh, I see.
some other there's a common ex-Schlumberger thread within DataCloud and over at Orica, and that's really what led us together on it. And we early days made some pretty good technical progress that they liked, and what ultimately led them to make the investment in DataCloud.
And you mentioned that had some effect on the transition to mining, though, because they're so heavy into the mining sector with the blasting.
It did, yes. They were actually, credit where it's due, they were the company that first introduced the mining opportunity to us. As we
Okay.
were focused on E&P at the time, and then through some mutual connections there, they asked if we would want to take a look at any of this in mining, and we had no idea that people didn't do this real-time geoscience in mining at the time because it's standard fare in oil and gas. So
Right.
the more we looked at it, it got to be a pretty easy decision for us, and also for our original financial investors out of Texas that, hey, we want to do a pretty hard pivot into just focusing on mining because we think there's a ton of green space in this area. And I do think it's inevitable. If it's not us, somebody is going to be
Right.
doing
Oh,
this.
of course, yeah.
It absolutely has to come to the industry.
Right. Yeah. Do you see now? Are you dealing with larger scale mines generally? Yeah.
Yes.
So do you see a lot of like initial resistance to the new technology, or like that first get through the door? Are they pretty open to it at first?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting. One of the things when we first started trying to land sales, we thought that our best targets would be these kind of juniors, these mid-tier, smaller miners. They'd be, maybe a little less bureaucratic, quicker to adopt, more innovative. It was true. It was all of those things they had, but the thing that we wound up pivoting to just focusing on the very, very large mining companies because they have the economics at their mine where if we can increase their throughput 1% or in their
Mm-hmm.
dilution, if we can reduce that 1%, I mean, this is $50 to $100 million of, extra revenue at a big iron ore mine out in the Pilbara. So it gets to be, they have the economic interest in trying to improve that. Little moves and performance in that regard have huge economic wins for the mines out there. So
Right.
and big surprise to us, were the ones that took the most liking to it right away, just for the economies of scale that they have there. They've been slower to crack, but
Right.
it's they steadily keep moving forward with the successes that we're having there. So
Yeah. This is I mean there's an environmental element to this because you're the more accurate, obviously, the more efficient you run, the more efficient machines are going to run, the less wear. It just goes on and on. Is that do you think uh do you think there I know in oil I think there's a bit more, but should this be I don't want to say government mandated, but should there be more of a demand from the government, do you think? Or how involved do you think they should be in implementing this technology?
Yeah, I don't. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
I don't have a government should definitely be doing this
Mm-hmm.
sort of answer, because it's yeah, it's certainly a yeah, I think that the short answer is I don't know what they can really be doing to help out with this. I think that one of the things we've noticed in Canada, we haven't participated in any of this, but there are different investment funds that the various governments have here that are targeting new technologies. So I think that's a really good, capital's the lifeblood of these companies, getting them off the ground. So I
Yeah.
think, that could probably be a proper role for them to continue, you're trying to invest in startups in Canada and elsewhere to get some of these new technologies up and going. But in terms of a mandate, I don't see how that could really be done effectively. Much as I'd love them to mandate everybody use DataCloud. Yeah.
Of course, yeah. It's just I see it in, like, we've had the bulk sort. We had engineers talking about bulk sorting. We have this technology. It's getting so quick. We're in touch with a couple of the big equipment manufacturers, getting them on the show. The pieces, what's happening now, and we really see it from doing these interviews, is we see, okay, this part has AI, this one has the bulk sorting, has this smart technology and this
Yeah.
sensor used. It's like it's almost there, that it's all connected, but it's all being distributed on different platforms and different uses. And I'm curious, what is sort of your view in the next, 10, 20, 30 years? How hard, well, I guess how hard would it be to start to integrate these? But also, where will it end up? Like, how much of it is going to be on AI and autonomous and Internet of
Yeah.
Things? And
No, it's a great question, and I kind of go back to some of the things that we've seen from our E&P days, again, exploration and production in our previous lives before getting into mining, is that a bunch of us were from Schlumberger, and they've got in oil and gas, we've got these huge integrated service companies that a BP or a Shell or whoever can come pay a Schlumberger, or they pay a Halliburton or Baker Hughes to just go take care of all of this stuff, to drill their wells and deal with all sorts of these things. And there's clearly huge efficiencies that you get with that sort of approach. One of the big surprises to us entering mining is that those sort of big integrated service companies just don't exist. There's lots of OEMs.
Yeah.
There's just not like a tied up company that has all sorts of different offerings, from basically exploration on down to production at the mill. And I think it's inevitable that it comes. Kind of our opinion from what we've seen in our previous lives, because I think there's so many efficiencies to get from just cooperation with the various companies out there. And I know there's commercial concerns about that, IP concerns, etc. But those are all eminently solvable, especially when there's so much economic upside to get a more integrated model for service delivery out there. And we think, again, drawn from our previous lives, but we think it's appropriate. Is that this kind of real-time understanding of the resource? The reservoir's always right, was the saying in oil and gas. And the same thing, knowing the rock is our tagline for DataCloud. We think it's the most important thing to then govern what comes downstream to make that more efficient. But to tie up drills, data, haulage, sorting, if all of that could be done in an integrated fashion, it could be a lot more efficient. How we get from here to there, will be an interesting journey. But I've no doubt that that's where you will see consolidation in the industry. And we'll move towards an integrated service model.
I find it interesting. You mentioned that in the oil and gas sector, you do see more of that, though.
Yeah, very prevalent. Yeah, it's these companies are, I don't know, Schlumberger's got a market cap of almost $100 billion, or and there's several. Halliburton's not far behind, and there's these giant critical companies that do a lot of this service work. It's they don't own any rights to the resource, but it's fee for service. They do all this critical stuff along the way. So the mining company owns the resource, pays an integrated service provider. And I know, if you could just kind of fast forward and have that model in place right now, I'm certain that the work could be done much, much cheaper with those sort of efficiencies in the workflow if that did exist.
Yeah, because we've had, what have we had? We've had people that are measuring using imaging, smart imaging to for the surface of the blast, and now your technology is the subsurface. We've had your sorting. We've had the trucks on for the so there are all these companies that are doing really great work. I'm not. You might have a better idea though. How challenging would it be actually from a technology standpoint to integrate all, if somebody did try to come in and say, okay, I'm going to piece these together and put a full service into a mine, how challenging would that actually be, though?
I think it'd be very challenging.
Yeah.
I think it'd be very beneficial. Like, we would love to have somebody with a drone fly over a muck pile that was blasted with our information to say how good or bad we were.
Yeah.
It would very much help to answer the prove it question, and then as that gets downstream into the mill, to be able to see as the fragments are coming in. It would be great for everybody involved. To get there, it's. I think somebody could come in with a lot of money and roll up a bunch of companies and put something like this together because the technologies are out there. It's just pretty heavily balkanized, is what we notice.
Yeah. I was going to ask. I was going to say. I'm drawing a blank here on it. Sorry, Thor. Just
no worries. But no, I think it's an amazing opportunity out there. It's one of the things that has been most surprising to us is just how how fragmented all the different service providers are, and just kind of a lack of cooperation that really goes on. I don't want to say there's no cooperation, but because that's not true either. But it's it's difficult to kind of get through the IP commercial concerns, where somebody to just start buying companies and consolidating could be a real quick way to get there.
When you started the technology, I wanna go a little bit into sort of where you're going as a company. When you started the technology, you obviously had to test it and all that sort of. What were some of the challenges that came up that maybe you didn't anticipate? The sensor is actually attached to the drill, so the vibration of the steel, I would assume, is what draws in to tell you what's actually in the type of rock that you're dealing with, right?
Yep.
Was that piece of technology and then connecting it to the data? What was the process or the timeline of actually getting that to be a working system?
Yeah, so we've had fully deployable working systems now for about 6 months, and we started this in earnest 2 years ago. So it's kind of an 18-month process to really build it to where we can show up and put this on the drill and it's going to work.
Right.
I think, and it's part of that 18-month process. The very early part was, we have an idea, and then to kind of get out to go do some field tests to see if we can measure some of these rock properties that we felt we could measure. If that didn't work out, wouldn't be here today. But we were able to do that. We did them with geophones, and we did them with a lot of non-scalable techniques that then, okay, now we know we can measure this. Now, how do we turn this into a product that a customer is going to say yes to, and that it can be easy on them? And then that's the consolidation down into these simple Rhino IoT devices and the edge computing that happens on the drill. So it was basically, once we could see that we could measure it at a very, with people on the bench and all sorts of non-scalable equipment, okay, how do we turn this into a scalable product that we could deploy quickly across multiple drills? And that was probably about an 18-month process on all of it.
Just for my own curiosity, what would be the example of testing it with a non-scalable?
Oh, sure. So so technically what we do is we use the bit as a sound source, and just kind of the acoustic sciences. And we wanted to see what we did at first was we put geophones out on the bench, and we needed to see if we could measure the transit times from when waves leave the bit to when they arrive at the geophones. And these rocks are hard. That means the velocity is typically very fast. The distances are short. The bits here, the geophones, 100 feet away. That's hard to measure. So you have very, very accurate timing fidelity to be able to do that. That was the first kind of initial big technical challenge. Could we do that? We realized that if we tell customers we want to show up with a bunch of people and a bunch of geophones, they're gonna so we had quickly kind of figure out how to do it without all of that stuff. But once we knew that it could be measured, then it was okay, how do we consolidate this down into something that we can rig up in 10 minutes, which is where it is right now, and that just works and doesn't require an extra step.
So that piece that's actually in the that's in the cab of the machine.
Yep.
you mentioned at the beginning, but what exactly is that? If you could explain that again.
Sure, it's an edge device, glorified computer basically
Okay.
that does a bunch of it connects wirelessly to the IoT sensors on the drill, and then some math happens on what the IoT sensors are measuring. Data gets compressed on that edge device, and then it streams up to the cloud. So it's constantly connected. If you have all we need is a 3G network or Wi-Fi, just
Right.
any sort of connectivity. And that edge device, that computer in the cab, is basically doing some of the initial calculations on the data, and then sending it off for the additional work to be performed in the cloud, where we have much more computational power up there.
Right. Where is this going to go? Like you're in Canada right now. You're in Australia.
Correct.
Where is that? Are those your two locations?
Yeah, we're very much aware. You know, you start up, do one thing, do it well. Here we're kind of trying to do a few different things. So,
Right.
but it's still, but we're keeping our arms around it pretty well. But our initial areas of focus have been Canada and Australia. Australia, for obvious reasons, just how large the market is
Yeah.
down there. Canada, great mining area close to home. So we focused on these two right away. And then we provide a solution set for iron ore and then for metallurgical coal. So
Right.
those are we're doing metallurgical coal and iron ore in Canada, and then also doing them both down in Australia. What we'll be doing later this year is we've got another raise. We can just, target where these things are, when these are going to come. Probably start that Q3, and then use of proceeds for that will be more geographic expansion, early stages of looking at entering Chile and getting into the base metals
Yeah.
market, copper, hard rock, porphyry systems,
Okay.
to expand into hire more people, geographic and geologic expansion. Also want to go underground. Right now we're just open pit, drill and blast. We hear a lot from people about trying to do this sort of stuff on the exploration side of the business. Starting to take an early look at that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I was going to say I think there must be you must get a lot of interest from the actual exploration side, even on the active mines when they're expanding their placement and they're
Yeah.
putting out drills, right?
Yep. Yeah. Kind of the general value pitch for an exploration project would be, if a client has X dollars to go do an appraisal project or exploration drilling program, whatever it might be, if for those X dollars, if they could get 10 core holes, continuous core from that. If we get it worked out with the measurement and prove that it actually will measure the stuff that they want to, very confident we'll get there. Just, it takes a little bit of time and more resources. But once we get there for that same budget, maybe a company gets comfortable that maybe they only need 2 core holes and they could get maybe another 30 non-core holes, or 40 core holes or non-core holes, I'm sorry. So you get many more holes drilled. You can do it much quicker and cheaper with these sensors on them instead of coring. So if we have that core correlation, which we've established as part of drill and blast with some customers, then it
Right.
opens up the ability for a fixed budget to get a lot more information.
I'm curious when you said about going into the underground, what would be the challenge of that transition to?
Yeah, right now the challenge is shock and vibration on the drills. Is a lot of those underground drills have what's known as a top hammer. Right now we work on rotary drills and DTH. Top hammer drills, DTH is down the hole hammer, but top hammer drills have a much more brutal shock and vibration environment. So it basically just involves making the IoT sensor more rugged to be able to survive in that sort of environment.
I
So
see.
another thing on the road, but it's a relatively easy thing to do. That opens up a giant market for us
Right.
to get into underground. So that's the one thing, and we'll have to, I'm sure there'll be toe stubbing involved and things that we figure out with underground. But that's the big technical next thing that we see for underground, is just to survive the shock and vibration environment that you see on those drills.
I want to close with a sort of a two-part question. Is the feedback from customers, how has it affected your development for where you are now that it's working model, it's on the market? How much of that was feedback from how much, if any, was from customer feedback? And how now in working minds, what sort of reviews or results have gotten back to you?
Yeah, so what we've done is, and this is where kind of an integrated measure at A to Z, company would be awesome to help answer some of these questions just, conclusively from A to Z
Yeah.
on the whole thing. But the area that we can control is measurement in the pit, and we've done a lot of work where customers will have RC drills, reverse circulation drills, that we will measure against reverse circulation to see that our density measurement is the same. That we can say, yep, here we prove it. We measure the same density that you get here. Done a bunch of work against core also, where we can log different parts of the ore body that then gets cored, and we can look at, and that's the gold standard is core, and it's one of our main premises with this is we want to tie to real rock data. So
Yeah.
in the upstream drill and blast arena, we've got great examples with all of our customers, and it's been part of the prove it, which they should require on this to show that we can measure blindly against known rock properties. So have absolutely done great there for everybody that we've wound up working for. What would be great, we're hopefully starting a project very soon for a big mining company on a big mine to mill effort that we would then, where this would be monitored from beginning to end to see what, probably a multi-year campaign for something like this, but to just see how much this sort of integration would really improve performance, economic performance at the mill. But the area that we've got control over of measuring these rock properties, been able to demonstrate great success for all of our clients there.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on the show.
Sure.
We really do appreciate it. It's pretty. Again, it's one of those things that you would almost assume that this is how it's done, but this is actually new. Do you have competition in the space, or is this like the drill manufacturers? Are they putting any of these manufacturing drills with these sensors on?
No, we've started talks with some of the big OEMs for just kind of go-to-market partnership type stuff, and sort of to the competition thing. And it's a great question to sort of, as I sense we're kind of wrapping up to conclude on it, is the existing way of doing this in the industry with these things, MWD systems, monitor while drill, measure while drill, and you're basically measuring different parameters on the drill, the RPM, the pull down pressure. So you got different sensors, and then from that, you'll then calculate a mechanical specific energy of how hard the drill is straining tells you something about what rock it's drilling through, and they've been doing that for decades. And that's kind of the existing technology, kind of the competition today, but I welcome being corrected, but we haven't seen anybody doing what we're doing, and we do actively look just to know these things, but we think to, the quote about skating to where the puck is going to be, that this is the inevitable future. We think it's a better place to measure on the drill steel, that vibration. You just get a much higher fidelity measurement about the rock rather than having sensors that need calibration that are all over the drill and need to be maintained. That it's a better measurement point that we focused in on, and then to supply some of the distributed cloud computing that's available now to put the computational muscle behind that is what's unique about it. It was the original view that we went into this with, backed by the investors, to make a new platform to measure very high resolution real-time ore body properties, and we felt it needed to replace. I think MWD's got a great future in the industry with drill preventative maintenance. There's not going away, but I think for rock property, rock mass evaluation, this is just a better way of doing it.
Yeah, you said about partnerships, and that you'd love to have someone who's going over the drone and looking at and I think that's sort of the start of being able to just come out and look for those partnerships. For you, I mean, you're leading this company forward. You're developing partnerships with Microsoft. How do you build those? What do you sort of bring to the table? Because there's a personal element to it always when you're developing these. We run into it with getting people on our show and getting sponsors. You have to have that ability to navigate through things with people, make people feel comfortable to work with you. Sort of on a personal level, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, personal level, culture. We think it's the most important thing within the company and the people that you're working with. Can you handle being around this person all the time? And they got the same ambitions, same ethics that you have. Are they going to be a good fit with team. That's kind of the first, check right there. And then for, if they pass that, then what we can bring, technically to it is, this measurement infrastructure that, this won't happen, but tomorrow we could deploy on 50 mines around the world. It's got this scalable backbone to it that can then feed into everything downstream from there. So we think we've got a lot of great technical contributions that we can make to these sort of partnerships as it develops. And then, culturally, we're a fun bunch too. So I think it would be good partners to work with out there.
Yeah. Well, I think this is, again, it took me a little bit to understand what the technology was. And then as I realized it, again, it seems like it's an obvious thing that needs to be there. I'm sure in another 5 to 10 years it'll be commonplace, and hopefully DataCloud is the company doing it. So.
That's great. Yeah, we like to say every drill in 5 years. So informal goal.
All right. Well, good luck to you.
All right. Great. Thank you very much.
So
yeah,
much.
no, I appreciate your time.
Okay. That is our show for today. Episode 19. They're stacking up, Gowdy.
Yes.
And we've got
a show every week, every Friday.
Every week.
Yeah.
Unless we take time off.
Oh, that's right.
You're going to go on vacation, aren't you?
I will be, yes.
Ditching us. Who takes vacations nowadays? I just took one time.
That's why you're saying it, 'cause
yeah,
you can't.
because I won't take one for another. Thank you for watching the show, everybody. We do appreciate it. If you're interested to be a guest or sponsor, you can contact us, right, Gowdy?
Yes, at info@crownsman.com. You could also just kind of follow us on Facebook, message us. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, all at Crownsman P. Please subscribe to the show on YouTube, Crownsman Partners. Again, like I said, a show every Friday, unless we're on vacation.
Also, and I noticed Rory's been sharing it out on, he's been sharing out the podcast more, and I like videos. So I'm biased against that. But a lot of people, if you're driving in that, you can listen to it. And there's a whole bunch of platforms that we're on the podcast as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think being able to, not everybody has time to sit there and watch something. So on the go, while you're driving to work or home from work, you can listen to us. We're pretty much everywhere. Spotify, Apple.
I love seeing you trying to do this list.
Google, Breaker, Castbox, Anchor. And there's more.
And there's many more. All right. Thank you for watching us. Please follow us. Please keep supporting the show. We really do appreciate it. And we will see you next week.